Okay, welcome everyone to the Public Works Committee meeting. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Mr. Strainer, Mr. Bean on the second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Without objection, we'll begin with solid waste. Is that all right? Okay, let's begin with solid waste. What do we have here today?
So the first thing we have on the agenda under action items is a request to create a new position. Now with that being said, I'm not creating a new position without deleting another position. In the solid waste division, we had a auto mechanic position. That auto mechanic position was to repair all the containers that we have. We now have several individuals, including our solid waste supervisor, that can do those repairs. So to better handle some of the capacity at the transfer stations that we're seeing now, we want to add another driver and remove the auto mechanic position. So there is a savings in amount of money. If you look at the positions, the individual who was in the auto mechanic position had just retired. And his salary was around 72,000. The starting base salary for the medium position for the driver is $51,890. So, and again, this is to assist us in providing a good service to all the transfer stations, especially as we get in the summer months and the transfer stations become much busier than they are already.
Let's bring this forward for consideration. Mr. Strainer, Mr. Merlino on the second. Any discussion? Whose idea was it?
A little bit of Scott and I.
Okay. All right, then. Are we ready for the question then? All those in favor of creating positions signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Next item.
And I'll turn it over to Scott for information for discussion.
Yeah, just first up for discussion, update on the compost project. So we received word of the DEC Climate Smart Community Grant for the food scrap pilot in January, and then it wasn't until the end of April we got the next kind of piece of that, which is to go through the multiple steps of executing the contract. Currently, the work plan and budget is back with the state. So we're waiting for notification for them so we can move through the process for executing the contract. Kevin and myself as well, I think, we're pretty firm that we need to wait till we have that actual executed contract before we start moving forward. We think once we have the green light, it'll be about 3 months before we actually start accepting food scraps. In the meantime, we've done some work to secure some of those drop-off sites. We met with the Queensbury Town Board Workshop last month. Rich Paris, who's the transfer station operator there, was in attendance as well, and they did not seem to have any issues and approved that we could utilize Queensbury transfer stations as a drop-off. Last week, I believe it was last week. We met with the Lake George Highway Superintendent, Rob Lanfear. He just had some questions, but he too was very supportive of being a drop-off site as well. So I feel like we're doing some of the back end work to make sure that we are ready once we do have the green light. Additionally, we're looking at some other potential drop-off sites. Supervisor E2 connected me with St. Mary's because there was some possible interest that they could be a drop-off site in Glens Falls. So all discussions that I think are positive. Nothing aside from those transfer stations, nothing concrete on those other additional drop-off sites. And then one other piece of the compost story is New York State DEC changed the wetland regulations starting in January 2025. It's going to add about 1 million acres to their existing wetlands. The parcel we selected on Stone Quarry Road east of the airport, when we selected the site, and we selected it based on the recommendation from our organics management plan, did not have any wetlands on the property. with this new regulation, it's not necessarily classified a wetland, but there's a new step that we had to submit to the state for a jurisdictional parcel determination. That online process wasn't available till probably last month, so I've submitted for that. But it's the state has 90 days to get back to us. If they don't get back to us in 90 days, we have to send a certified letter and then they have 10 days to respond. If they don't respond within 10 days, then we're waived for 5 years for any of the requirements. But anyway, so just another piece of the puzzle that we're moving through. My feeling is I think it'll be approved on that level, but again, it's kind of within our timeline anyway, but just another part of the process for that.
I'll add to that is most of you who are town supervisors, you're probably well aware of this too, and it probably goes for realty as well. These new wetland regulations, anybody who's building along the lake, they're severely impacted by these new regulations. They put, as Scott said, they've added at least 1 million more acres of wetland. And you'll have to get variances, you'll have to get approval. So the process is, I mean, I think, I said to Scott when we discussed it, and it's not a knock against DEC, but they're short-staffed. So I think after the 90-day period, we will never get to that. We will never get to 10 days and the certified letter, because what will end up happening is probably a month. Thank you. Or maybe a couple weeks or to get that 90-day approval. Bless you.
Thank you.
We would get an extension letter from them asking them to extend a little while longer, and they've done that on other permits, so I think they'll do the same thing here as well. So.
Dave?
Scott, how many drop-off sites are we trying to address here? Do we want one in each town, two?
So up to 4 was the language of our grant for the pilot.
And who picks up the stuff from the drop-off sites? Is that,
County will be doing it.
is there a certain person, like I know we got the container people, are they the ones that would be picking this up, or?
Yeah, either them or somebody from my buildings and ground, because they have the rack truck. And these containers that we're proposing at these transfer stations, if a homeowner signs up to drop off their food waste at a transfer station, they would receive a 5-gallon bucket. They would bring the buckets to the transfer station and then dump them in containers, whether Scott and I are still working out the containers, whether they're 96-gallon containers or 64-gallon containers. They'll have locks on them or codes on them so that the homeowner they'll be given the code, they can use it to put their materials in there. And then we don't know how quick or how often we would do the pickups. We won't know that until we start, receiving some of the material. But then we would come with our rack truck, load them up at every transfer station and then bring them to our compost facility, dump them off, and then bring them back to the transfer stations.
If you're looking for a site, I've been out volunteer bowl, but if you have a small town out there, just something that's going to be comparable later on, that's fine. You mentioned Lake George. Is there another town aside Lake George?
We had talked about Warrensburg.
Warrensburg would be a good, I'm volunteering Warrensburg. I probably shouldn't do that.
Centrally located.
So right now, currently, we would, as Scott and I have discussed, it may be difficult to do a Hague run or something like that. So what we're thinking of hitting is maybe Lake George, Warrensburg, and Queensbury, and that kind of breaks it up in the county a little bit. And I'm not opposed to maybe going to Bolton or someplace else. We're just trying to make it efficient to be able to do this, and if we get too far out, it's not being efficient when we're doing it.
Yeah, no, there's travel time there. You're right. It doesn't necessarily add anything to the demonstration. It just adds that time more than cost even. Well, thank you. Next item.
Next item was just an update on recyclables. So at the end of last year, we submitted for an EPA, it's called a Swiffer grant, solid waste infrastructure and recycling grant. It was a 1.4 million, 100% grant to build a centralized recyclable facility. We had submitted that, got the acknowledgement, it was received. There was uncertainty. I think I did not expect to hear anything from the EPA for a while at least, but just 2 weeks ago, I got a email from the EPA that our application has moved past the threshold stage, which it basically saying we met all the requirements of the submission. I did do a little research. It seems like maybe about half the grants don't make it through threshold, so it wasn't a no. And it basically said that the decisions would be made, I think in December of 2025. So yeah, surprised to get word, but there was some movement on that.
So just to add on, this is the second submittal for us with this grant, and the first time through, we didn't make it past this threshold stage. So that's positive note. Hopefully we make it through this next stage and we get awarded the grant in December.
And even if we get a no, the positive of getting past threshold is we can now request a feedback meeting at the EPA. So we'll have an idea of if we didn't get it, why we didn't get it.
Any questions for Scott? Okay. For a lot of the communities like George Bolton, the community, this is that busy to stay under it. So our program is doubling just about right now, so there may be some bumps in the road here. I'll just ask everyone to be patient as we build to the new operating situation. But some of the issues, quite frankly, we were having even with the private haulers. Lack of trips, lack of drivers, so they're suffering the same kind of issues. Okay.
Can I add on to that, Rob?
Sure.
I'll just say that if any of the towns are having any issues with any pickups, please reach out to Scott and or I. We do have the phone line that you can leave messages on as well. Our solid waste supervisor is also one of our drivers, so he comes in every morning at 6 a.m. and listens to the messages first to see where he needs a pickup, and then he goes out on the road. So if there's anything you need, leave the message on that. And if you can't get a hold of them or you don't think you're getting a response, call Scott or I, and we will certainly assist you. Thanks.
For example, here in Bolton, we have 1,000 households are year-round residents, but we have 2,400 households. So they're filling up with people now. So our program is increasing in multiples now, as I think many Lake King as well. Not to mention the commercial.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next?
Parks and Rec.
Arthur?
Thank you.
So the first item we have on our parks, thank you, Scott. The first item we have on our Parks and Rec is to establish a capital project, and I will let Dean talk about this a little bit.
Yeah, as you know, at the end of last year, we applied for the CDBG capital grant in the tune of, $83,100. It is 100% funded grant. And we moved past the stage, as Scott was talking about, the stages with the state fundings. And we got the contract approved. Everything is in place. And we look forward to actually trying to get this project done within a year. We have about a 2.5 year window left, so. And I digress, for those that may not recall. So this project is for, it's capital funding from the state. It's to help us maintain what's called our specimens on the property. That goes for the over 30 specimens that are in our natural history diorama, the taxiderm specimens. This is for an HVAC systems to be put into the museum, which has never had something for the summer to maintain it, which is important for the taxiderm specimens, and the auditorium and a backup generator. And if for any reason there's funding left over, we're going to clean up the courtyard a little bit and open it up to the deck. So
Let's bring this forward for consideration. Can I have a motion to bring this forward? Professor Casito. Supervisor Turner on the second, bring it forward. Okay, let's bring it forward. Any discussion? This is to establish the capital project H444, correct?
That's correct.
83,000, is there a local share on this?
There's not.
No local
100%.
Right then, any further discussion? We're ready for the question then. All those in favor of establishing this capital project signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the capital project is established. Next.
thank you. The next is an annual renewal. We're requesting extension of an existing contract with the city of Glens Falls for the West Mountain parking lot for maintenance for snowmobiles and snowmobile use and the trails. really all
bring
that
this
is.
one forward. A motion to bring this forward, Mr. Turner on the motion, a second, Mr. Strainer on the second. That's all right. Any further discussion?
May I make just a request? If it's feasible with the contract to make it, to provide 2 one-year renewable terms so that the contract, so this won't have to come back every year.
Right.
And that'll be at the mutual agreement of both parties
Sure.
for the additional 2 one-year terms, if that's acceptable.
Okay, let's go ahead.
I was just gonna ask if we could make this an annual renewal, cause it's for the snowmobile club and for it's the city of Glens Falls parking lot. And they allow us the use of that for the snowmobile, and then it's also for South Warren Snowmobile Club to do the maintenance and everything on the trails. Could this be an annual renewal until the parties change, or
And there's no money associated with
there
it.
is not?
And it's an intermunicipal agreement, so I think that would be, if the city of Glens Falls is fine with that, then we would have no issue with that, with the county.
All right, let's go back to the motion. Are we, Turner, yeah, I think you made the motion. Are you satisfied with the amending it to an annual recurrence? Mr. Strainer, were you on the second on that?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion is to approve this with the annual, this would be administrative, subject to Mr. Hajos's approval, correct? Is that how this is done?
Yep.
Unless it's determined by either party, they no longer wish to participate in this. All right. You've heard the motion. Are we ready for the question then? All those in favor of the contract as amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next item.
Sure. Just 2 items for discussion, just to bring you up to speed. Our annual spring zing at the fish hatchery worked out to be a very good in attendance program in lieu of the weather and the rainy season that we started with. We had about 250 people that came out to it. That's not including volunteers and all that. Typically, that event is really flush if we get over 300. So it was great. As you may have seen in the packets, the images, we had the DEC was there, Warren County Sheriff's Department was there up beyond soil and water. A host of groups to thank. Warren County Conservation Council was there, LGA, a lot of support from environmental groups, and it went very well this year. So, and actually a little trivia for the towns. Just happened to play with numbers. Top 4, thank you Queensbury for 60 residents. Warrenburg had 28. Third place was Lake George, 24, and Glens Falls came in with 19. There was representation from all municipalities, by the way. I didn't mean to short anyone. Just thought I'd throw that there. Thank you. That's all I had, unless there's any questions about the event.
Thank you, Dean.
Yeah.
Appreciate that report, Captain.
And I'll put a plug in that my daughter was the one from Soil and Water. On the river table.
And she's
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'd like to introduce another discussion topic. So, since we're on the subject of railroads, as Parks and Rec. We, as you know, we have contracts with, Rev Rail to use our rail line until 2027, I believe. And they pay us $100,000 a year. Last year, repairs on the rail were $683,000 to repair some of the, washout where there was washout. And additional cost to buy a machine that so Kevin and Dean can run the rails and check it out and see how it looks. But there's a possibility of other repairs going forward. So Empire State Development, and Ethan was here, he must have gone back to get some data. Empire State Development will offer a 50-50 match to do a study of the rail line. And it'd be about $50,000 for us. They'd come up with $50,000. And we can, one of the things, we're not saying we want to run Rev Rail off of the trails. But it might behoove us to do a study of some alternate uses for the rail line. Essex County, as you know, just created a rail multi-use trail, and it's been very successful. And we know there are funds available through the Open Space Institute and other avenues with the state to potentially get funding to fund almost all of this if we were gonna convert it to. So, I think that's what we just wanted to introduce it for discussion today and see what people think. Thanks.
Discussions, board members? Dave?
Haven't we done studies like this before? I thought we had done this when we were looking to bring the ore stuff from Barton Mines. I mean, going back many years now. And didn't we do some kind of study to see what other feasibilities we would have with the rail?
Yeah, we didn't do a study. What we did is we put out an RFP to see what other type of individuals would want to use rail. Wasn't necessarily a study that said, you know, this study is, as much as I know about it, would say, okay, what does each town along the rail have? What would this do to the economy in those towns if you did something else like a bike trail? Or maybe it stays as the rail is now. Maybe it does look back to a tourist train. I don't know, and I'm not going to be the one to say what it is. I do think that there's a lot more pieces to this study than we would think, and it's something maybe that I would have to discuss with Ethan, but if there's an ownership to that rail that, yes, Warren County owns it, but if something wasn't done to that rail by 2065 or something like that, it was to revert back to all the property owners. So there's a lot more involved with this. This would just be a study saying, which I hope would include that information, would say, hey, these are the many uses that you could do with this trail. You know, or with this rail line, you could turn it into a multi-use trail. You can leave it as a rail. You can run freight, whatever it may be. And I don't want to put freight out there and somebody think otherwise. But that's what it'll give us an overall look at and then there will probably be some estimated cost involved with some of the proposals. I think one thing we looked at inside DPW years back was if we were to do a multi-use type of path, like a bike path, like we have in between Lake George and Glens Falls. With the rail that's there, with removing the rail, we looked at a couple other rail trails around the state have been put in, and that was about a $55 million cost back then. Now there is rail trail money, but I'm not saying that's where we're proposing to go, but we would hope that this planning study would provide a broader picture of what some of those costs would be and what it would be involved with what we would have to do. So,
And this study be done by our planning department, Ethan? This is a private.
I think it would be a
Be a
consultant.
private consultant. They, planning would put in for the grant. And they'd work with Kevin and Dean to, you know, manage this project. So, you know, there are a lot of possibilities. There is a multi-use trail now that goes from Albany down to New York City. And I've had discussions with the Saratoga County Administrator. You know, we have an opportunity to connect into that trail on this rail line and have a trail that runs from New York City up to Taos in the middle of the Adirondacks. You know, and we could probably ultimately connect into the Lake Placid Trail as well. So there are a lot of opportunities. This came out as part of our comprehensive plan study. And the outdoor recreation study we just completed that said, you know, one of the things that's a great asset for local communities is a multi-purpose trail that you can use for biking, hiking, road races, you know, snowmobiles in the wintertime. So, you know, and all kinds of things like cross-country skiing, things like that. So,
Chairman, if I could just add a comment, hopefully the study would also look at the current legal status of the railway. Because Warren County has no authority to pull up any tracks. Because that is still, the railway has not been abandoned by the Federal Oversight Board. Back in 2018, the DEC did file an application to seek the abandonment of about 30 miles of the line, the Tahawas line. But in 2023, they withdrew that application and did not move forward. So there's other steps that need to occur before any proposed plan could be acted on by Warren County.
You know, let's not forget this board passed a resolution to no longer operate as a rail line. I mean, it seems to me that we really, if we're going to do something like this, there's certain products we have to have. I think having the kind of legal homework that Emery's mentioning, I think is essential, but I think also essential is, you know, there's so much infrastructure. What's the cost of this infrastructure? What's the cost of this infrastructure? You mentioned $600 and some $1,000 plus a piece of equipment. I think it's reasonable to assume over maybe a 30-year period, you might have other types of washouts during certain storm events. That, you know, and we have, and so we have crossings and bridges and trestles and all kinds of infrastructure here that have life expectancies. What is that? So, you know, and I think we have this, so we have this line, and we don't have much resource appropriated for it. And so, you know, in terms of the washout, whatever, I mean, we had to go to I assume our fund balance for that. Our fund balance, as I remember, our fund balance. So it would seem to me that we really need to have some a much clearer picture of what the cost is to own this asset. And then I think we're in a better position to begin thinking about what we need to do going forward. Because, and I don't know that I've ever seen any hard numbers in that regard. Kevin, you've been involved in this. Are there any hard numbers that have ever been produced? You know, when you stop and you think about that, what the different types of activities on this line that we've owned and the grants that we applied for to improve this thing. And yet the person in charge says there are no hard numbers that exist relative to what the costs are for ownership of this thing. Regardless of whether anyone sets foot on it, right? You're going to have those costs regardless. So I think we need to have a better picture of what our financial responsibilities are going to be going forward.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. The other thing we could do is, we could include something in there that says, assess the rail line, you know, the feasibility of what repairs are gonna be in the future. You know, they can make estimates like that.
Well, I would agree. I mean, everything has a life cycle cost, right? I mean, everything, I would imagine they could put together some kind of spreadsheet for us, so we have a no nonsense real view of what that might aid us in our future decision making, as opposed to going out and saying, well, wouldn't it be nice if we did this, or wouldn't it be nice if we did that? But we're not dealing with what the real cost is going to be with this. And those are my thoughts as well. I would hope that they would be part of them if we did this work. I don't know, what are the thoughts of the committee? Vinny, I see you shaking your head.
No, I agree, and of course, the studies should help us secure any grant opportunities that are out there also, right? If the study's complete. Yeah. It's something we should move forward with.
Well, it might help us with our budgeting as well.
Right, exactly, yeah.
The department that's in charge is, we can't have it as an action item. Is that the signal? Yeah, no, we
Right,
can't. Have
right.
it. It wasn't part of our agenda.
Right, I didn't mean it like that, just continue
Yeah, I knew
discussion.
that.
I know we can, yeah. Okay,
Agenda. We'll bring this forward for further discussion, like, she's giving the signal that they're going a bit afield here. But it's something for folks to think about. Is it all right if we take this at the next month's meeting, or are you want to something?
Please, no, you can't.
All right, let's maybe make this as
Yeah, we're not under.
but in the interim, if anyone has any thoughts, you know, send them to John. Just so we make sure we take everyone's thoughts into consideration, all right? What's the next item?
No, just to quickly mention, the stocking report has been, it is placed in your packet as well. We had a very good year, as you can see in the graph, taking us all the way back to the beginnings. We've had an uptick. It was a good season for growth, not a lot of disease, good quality eggs supplied, in the larger graph. And then, as you can see, the fish that were placed in your communities on the other one for our stocking report. And, we're looking forward to a good spring and good turnover.
I'll just add on is, this, I remember back in 2008 when there was discussions of cutting. Possibility of cutting the fish hatchery, but certainly. You can see by that bottom line number of 1.2 million fish over the last 42 years. That helps our economy, helps the fishermen that come to fish our lakes and streams and bodies of water, so. Thank you to Dean and Jeff Hingley, those guys at the hatchery for what they do.
Absolutely. Is that it for
That's it for
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Without objection, we'll move right into Public Works.
All right, the first item we have on there is a request to amend contract. This is for a supplemental agreement for additional preliminary engineering, construction support and construction inspection for H411, the Corinth Road, County Route 28 over Clendon Brook project that is currently happening right now. The extra engineering that was required was due to the water line relocation. And then some extra time out there for them to do the inspection of both, the inspection of observation of that. So this would be with Clough Harbor and Associates, who is our engineer for that project, or CHA Consulting.
The amendment is for how much?
The amendment is for $79,500.
All right, let's bring this forward for consideration. Mr. Strainer on the motion, bring it forward. Mr. Bean on the second. Any further discussion? Mr. Strainer.
Well, I just have one. I had received an email about the upper part of that Corinth Road. And I believe you told me that once the bridge is finished, that they're going to pave all the way up to West Mountain Road.
I'm going to talk about that one
Okay.
shortly in another resolution. But yes, that will be taking place. And I just want to add on, for those who don't know, this is a federal aid project. And it's an 80-15-5 for this. And the local match that we have would be in our transfers to capital projects.
Okay, ready for the question then? No further discussion. All those in favor of the amended contract signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next item.
Next item is the add-on to this, which would be to increase the capital project, and we're increasing the capital project by $41,109.66. And this is, again, it will be coming out of transfers to capital projects.
Bring this forward, Mr. Strainer, Mr. Bean on the second, discussion. All those in favor of the increase to the capital project signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next item.
Next item we have is we had asked the chairman of the board to sign off on a New York State DOT, a GFTC roadway departure safety action plan. This is a plan that was done by State DOT and the Adirondack Glens Falls Transportation Council in regards to, I want to say in our county, 9 different areas that had significant amount of roadway departures. Allow us to take a look at those roadway departures, do some design. And then not all the funding in this, but some funding would do basically what I would refer to as the fix for these areas where the roadway departure is happening. And then I would certainly probably later on come back to the county or look in our own budget to do the remainder of the repairs that are needed. So this is a grant that the chairman had already signed for. So this is to ratify the actions of the chairman of the board.
So Merlino on the motion, second. Cedar on the second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead, Mr. Strainer.
What areas are you talking about that you're going to be looking?
I don't
at?
have the list on with me here, but there's 9 areas around the county. Several of them are up in Warrensburg. There was a couple in Hay. I believe there was one in Stony Creek, one in Thurman. I don't believe I had any in Queensbury area.
Well, there is one that Bay Road from 149 to 9L. The lower part really needs some attention, and I've discussed this with you. And you said we possibly might have some extra funds because the costs were coming in lower than anticipated. So at all costs, I'd love to see us somehow get that fixed, somehow paved, filled in, because I have been getting inquiries about that also.
Okay. And again, this one that we applied for is roadway departure, so it's typically areas where they would seek to have guide rail or signage or something like that. But I
Pavement
will
departing.
certainly, I will certainly look at our funding for the portion of what you're referring to on Bay Road.
Okay, I
You'll get
appreciate
back
that.
to Supervisor Stream. You'll get back to you.
Yeah. I want to keep Queensbury in the mix.
Right then, we're ready for the question. All those in favor of ratifying the actions of the chairman signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next item.
Next item we have on there is to establish the maintenance paving projects. The maintenance paving projects the bids came in, I think the day before yesterday, and we took a review of those and I don't have, right now, I think it's to be determined who they will go to, because we just got the bids in and we want to review them first. But you'll see the list of projects that we'll be moving money into, and again, these are overlay type projects. So we had County Route 8, Friends Lake Road, town of Chester. We had County Route 22, Harrisburg Road, and town of Stony Creek. County Route 28, which is the Corinth Road project from Westmount or past Westmount. It'll start at the culvert and go up to Call Street, where the last Call Street project was. Diamond Point Road on the lower end, Dix Avenue in the town of Queensbury, and then 13th Lake Road in the town of Johnsburg. And you'll see the numbers that were on there. And again, the bids came in, and I will have who we will award this to before the board meeting.
All right, then you get that out to the full board, correct?
Yeah, and that's the next resolution that's on there, is the maintenance paving and the bids to be determined. So
So you want to handle 4 and
you
5?
you can. Yep.
All right, can we have a motion regarding bring forward 4 and 5? Mr. Bean on the motion, Mr. Strainer on the second. Any further discussion? We're ready for the question. All those in favor of 4 and 5 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next item.
And then the last item we have on there is the transfer of funds, and this is to fund those maintenance projects, and you'll see where I'm taking the money out of certain projects and moving it over into other projects, to the new projects that we just had.
Okay, motion, bring this forward, Mr. Bean, bring it forward, a second. Mr. Crusado on the second. Any further discussion? Okay, we're ready for the question. All those in favor of the transfer signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved. Next item, Kevin.
I didn't necessarily have anything for discussion item, but I will say that their contractors have been on board, and they started with the first project, which is Trout Lake Road or Lamb Hill Road, and they're continuing through, and we're expecting sometime with the current projects, not the ones that we're awarding now, but with the current projects that we have already awarded, they should be done probably by mid-August with those projects. And several of the contractors that had bid on the newer projects, we believe that they'll continue, some of them that'll be awarded to the current contractors that'll continue the work probably through into September.
With that, I'll open up privilege of the floor. Anyone wishing to address the committee at this time? There being no one, is that it, Kevin?
That's all I have.
Okay, then Chair, I'll get a motion to adjourn. Mr. Strainer, Mr. Bean on the second. All in favor of adjourning, signify